Chilly here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Venus. Our Venus ruling the midheaven just crossed Spica. Any ascendant ruled by Saturn at 29 degrees Pisces. Moon 21 degrees Libra, applying to oppose Chiron. And this is a sequel to my Saturn, Neptune, and Saturn Aries video. So I was stopping the video at somewhere where I talked about the Zumbor ritual abuse ceremonies that happen in the IDF that were considered controversial. And mind you, this is a mandatory. During war, all armies are mandatory. And then I was thinking about the fact that basically many people that have a gun in those settings can simply shoot everyone, take the guns, shoot everyone, take the guns, shoot everyone. Basically, that's also what they did in 7th of October upon the invasion. So there were the ranks, there were the people that were raping children in Thailand, and those were the people that were extorted or raping people in the army. And those were the people that were extorted to not prevent the invasion, false flag, whatever you call it. And then there were the simple soldiers that joined the mandatory army service. And mind you, the geopolitical situation, okay? If tomorrow, let's say, Palestine decides that the Muslims create a concentration camp for the Christians, okay, in Gaza. Um, Palestine is situated, and let's say Israel is out of the map, okay, as a thought experiment. So Palestine is situated within the context of Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, okay, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, basically the Gulf states, and inherits the problems as well as the blessings of the region. Of course, their military would be mandatory. And when we have ritual abuse happening, because I opened the previous episode with kind of this gnosis I had before Chris Brennan was uploading his Saturn Neptune in the Secret Society um, episode, then I was having this gnosis of, well, with all the fraternities and sororities and the ritual abuse and treason that people were doing to one another, that would explode the cells like that was the school shootings. And this is a little bit of a prediction that could be borne out with Saturn Neptune, which is that suddenly in one of those armies that have Zumbur-like rituals, okay, rape rituals of one another, if somebody would take a gun, shoot everyone, take their guns, shoot everyone, take their guns, shoot everyone. And my prediction is that this would be the ingress, because Aries is military. And um, Mars is in Aquarius and Saturn would be in Aries. The armies can have to do with the IDF and Iran, with Palestine. Okay? There is nothing, the nodes are still with Virgo and Pisces. Um, so the Aries related countries, definitely Israel, because Chiron is opposing the ascendant of Israel. And then we have the Leo Aquarius. Romania? Romania? Romania is very Aquarian. It can even be Finland. You know, like the Arctic countries. Um, United States, I don't see so pinpointed here. This is fifth house for United States, so if it is U.S. Army, it's not U.S. in U.S., I think. Um, the Mars in Aquarius can denote the guerrilla, okay, because it's not, it can denote something that's not an army yet. But this is basically the Zumbur in the training, or the Zumbur like, or the ritual abuse of the fraternities and sororities, rape rituals in those armies that are not yet armies, in those guerrilla organizations and or armies. They can be global armies, NAVO, but not just NAVO. Um, it's eighth house for NATO, which is things swept under the rug. If there is Zumbur-like stuff going in the Royal Armies, then that precipitates to NATO, and that can be a bubble pop. Like somebody could really shoot everybody down. Now, I guess we wouldn't hear about this normally, but it's in small countries, for example, something like this happened in Israel within the army, and something close to that happened, by the way, in 2007. Um, but if something like that happens, it's impossible to hide, let's say, 300 soldiers dead. One sudden day when there's no war. During training, okay? Um, and of course, the brotherhoods, the lodges, the hospitals, um, but Aquarius is either decentralized global army, and the closest example we have is NATO, I think, or organizations that are also global that are not yet army, that are guerrilla or hidden army. Because of Neptune, this type of event can take the form of the astral. Okay, to somebody doing that to an egregore that precipitates ritual abuse. Um, Now, this type of event, sad as it is our best bet at preventing a world war. Definitely the places where the rituals done that harm children can go boom. But because Aries is the Neptune Aries is the nobody is coming to save you, then it is the people themselves, the boys mainly. The boys, Jonathan haloing their rapists within the brotherhoods. Saturn here can be the boy marriages between the cults. Okay, when they marry the 33, let's say, marries a boy. Um, then that boy can do for those events. Okay, can kill his husband. um, and this is an explosive. Okay, Mars is not going to be an 11 degree, but it's going to be quite explosive in Aquarius. It's going to be 16 degree on February and then continue 16, 17 to the last degrees of Aries. Um, Venus, Mercury, and Sun are going to be conjoining Rahu in Pisces. Um, but Mars is going to be in Aquarius with Saturn in Aries. There's going to be this reception of Mars Saturn. It seems to be that the boys will rebel their rapists. But this is going to be probably armed rebellion. Now, with arms, there can be arms, missing weapon, and it can be tanks, it can be, um, yes, any type of weapon could go missing or not having enough of. Um, it's both when there was 7th October, then people needed to go to the safety rooms. And if they were living in a building, it was outside the building. And then they had to open the doors and they saw the weapon that organized crime was hiding there, the illegal weapon trade. So this is definitely. Oh, it was also during the Iran, particularly during the Iran one, because this was the previous Saturn Neptune. I said it's going to happen, then it happened. And they were launching a hospital, and a missile drops on one of the hospital departments. All of the people are transferred accidentally to the new hospital that was just previously built in the city. And force majeure. Um, Now, so we might have, and those events might be the thing that leaks. Think about Frank Olson's quasi-suicide basically would lead to the declassification of MK Often. Not just MK Ultra, MK Often. Okay, like suddenly a guy drops from a window. Who's that guy? What was he doing? Why did he die? Was that an accident? Now imagine 300, 400 complete battalions going boom from within because of those rituals. But why? Because Neptune is that nobody is coming to save you. And so if nobody is coming to save you, think about the Me Too. In the Me Too, before people began to speak up, they knew they couldn't litigate. The judge was raping the children in Thailand together with the offender. But you say, wait a second, who was the offender? Exactly. Testimonies were turned to humiliation rituals. The women that was their husband. So what did people do? And then a person goes to therapy. You need to speak about it. This. You need to speak about it. That. You need to speak about it. And then it explodes. And basically, that was the explosion. Because it was the cult within, the mind control, the torture and keeping everything, the attempt to create a rapport, the attempt to the weird experiences that happened during being psychically attacked and so on and so forth. Um, for some people, it was going from misplaced arousal to relaxed arousal that it exploded. Because something was trying to siphon the life energy, and there was a desensitization where a person doesn't even know what's happening. And wait a second, that astral thing is real? Okay, but it's taking me to a place I don't want. Wait a second, I did not intend to have anything with that person. I'm gonna just go outside of that. And then, boom, when people leave toxic relationships, then things explode. Now, mind you, those people in top positions, they were taught and they practiced the very thing that undermined basically them having erection eventually, even, or sperm count. But they were practicing that usually because they thought that, that's the desired qualities. Okay, and somebody tried their best at being the best lover. It's like, that's rapey. That's misplaced arousal. Going into relaxed arousal, and I was like, okay, that shit was done to desensitize, dissociate, and trying to be a handler of people. It was usually done when the perpetrator themselves has a handler. And the people don't even understand what is going on. Nobody in academic circles talks about astral projection. If they did, they'd have to talk about the spiritual rape that's done in academia. Military academia was basically rape. Okay, Elijah. Now, what happens when a person falls into trauma? They laugh and they cry and they desensitize and they laugh at the weird parts. You saw my previous episode. Y'all saw when I was laughing at Nazis, not because I support Nazis, it's because the entire thing was so traumatizing. What's the entire thing? Living, living in Israel, Falcon. If Israelis could get away with that, they would be living in your countries. So probably your countries are doing same things that Israel doing. The cult is global. So um, those type of things create a mega pigua, okay, mega explosion. And by the way, the siphon of the energy is meant for people to actively commit war crimes. I'm not talking about the soldiers, I'm talking about the commanders. I'm talking about being handler and programmer and mind controller of a politician, a military general, a secretary general, or people that are supposed to decide whether we go to war or not. And then everybody suddenly tries to prevent a war. It's kind of like, well, don't rape. It's too late for that if you're trying to prevent a war being a mass rapist under the guise of handler, under the guise of intelligence. Don't rape. You want to prevent a war, prevent rape. Prevent ritual abuse. Rethink those desensitization rituals. And of course, the women in academia that said, oh, rape happens in war. Because they were making money from enabling that. They would be having houses It's real estate. Now, more things that I can say about those upcoming events. Because basically we are February 7, we are exactly a week before the Saturn ingress. We didn't have it on the minute. We had it on a degree, but not on the minute. Now we're gonna have it on the minute. Okay, the on the minute I think is happening right about the eclipse or in the 20th. And Venus, Mercury and Venus were crossing the points of this upcoming eclipse. Um, Fraternities and sororities are going to be a big deal. Aquarius is anything revolutionary, also astrology. Okay, I was the first astrologer that talked about MK often. Then Chris Brennan did his video. It took him time because he did a really thorough scanning of the Saturn Neptune a long history, and that takes time. Um, so for me, Aquarius is the 12th house, so it's kind of like the wisdom that I bring into the 11th and the ninth. But for people for whom it's the first house, it's kind of like, hey, that it pinpoints them. It pinpoints them in ways that they couldn't have predicted. Just like Pisces, I don't know, Pluto will be in Pisces when I'll be in my 60s, um, so that was the Romantic era. That was the composers of the Romantic era. That was the part of the Enlightenment that was looking into the shadow, the collective shadow. Um, so I would probably learn more about Romanticism, um, and how am I particularly pinpointed by the Romantic scholarly thought that was a part of the entire Enlightenment. I definitely got a rude awakening about the Enlightenment. Okay, um, and so I did not connect when I wrote Sugar Free Lemonade. I did not connect Freemasonry to any of that. I just had like a weird. It was almost like my head was lightheaded, like at the time when I had iron depletion. I think somebody was donating blood, or I saw the time where I was donating blood. I was donating blood only when I was very suicidal because I had iron depletion, so it was actually not so safe for me to donate blood. Um, and they were, and it's a bloodletting ritual because it's painful. And earlier I felt that, and now it feels like somebody's lightheaded. I remember that I was lightheaded, but I don't know how that connects. Uh, um, There are those, I don't know, weird attempts to have another, how did it say Bet Mikdash? Maybe that's why they kidnapped Haymanut. And this says temple. Oh, it's just temple. Okay, so they want to build the third temple. Um, Maybe that's why they kidnapped Haymanut, because it's a sacrifice. It's a bloodletting sacrifice. In the temple, there were sacrifices, and people say, oh, it was ruined about hatred or hating one another. It was ruined because it was ritual abuse, for the same reason that they can't say it, but for the same reason they ruined the Moloch statues or the Baal statues. But then the word husband in Hebrew, um, biblically or Hebraic, it's considered Baal. And I'm like, no, it means something different. I was like, well, couldn't they find a different word for that? I mean, they are aware of the signification of the letters, of the Hebrew letters in the etheric. Why were they summoning the same yoga of letters for husband as for the god that they said that they shouldn't worship? Okay, esoteric. Every religion has esoteric traditions. So those revolutionary temple structures are going to go boom. Um, Bless you. My mom sneezed on that. It's true. Now, oh, Neptune Aries people might believe that the Messiah is coming because Neptune is Messiah and Aries is a Mars sign. So they might believe that there's somebody incarnated as the Messiah or something. Kind of like the second coming of Christ, but Aries is more like the Messiah. They are going to try to locate a living Messiah. The mythical soldiers, mythical sacred, the death of saints, all of those mythizations of war, death, sacrifice, a hand in hand with the reality check about those very things. Okay, that Mother Teresa trafficked children rather than helped them, um, to siphon their energy for real estate. Basically, um, I already heard ideas about frequency-based currency. Um, the limitations. We'll talk about social credit score. Um, those structures will also go boom, and they already are. Um, Now, particularly because if Saturn Neptune is also the time where everybody, if the neighbors didn't like someone, they'd say, "Oh, that's a spy," and so on and so forth. Um, The spies are the traffickers, and then I also gave the telos of how are the Epsteins created, and that takes to Alandra Montauk from Montauk Project. But um, um, and this Saturn Neptune is going to explode the names behind real estate and subprime scams. Those people that were thinking to limit the credit of people and traffic them, their names are going to be on, particularly when they think to do a social credit score system. And this would create a situation where a lot of money laundering bubbles begin to pop. Okay, somebody tell on somebody, and whether it's true or not, that somebody says, yeah, let me give you a couple of more names. And each one of those names is like, yeah, let me give you a couple of more names. If, now, for the people that didn't do anything, it's kind of like, well, who could that be that prevents that? I don't know. Maybe the person I was running away from violence from. Maybe this, maybe that. And for the people that did do crime, they're like, if I can money launder, nobody can money launder. Okay, they become whistleblowers at that juncture. In fact, there were when it regards to higher echelon banking or Illuminati banking sozusagen. I mean, that was the whistleblow. Then it was when the job was to do crimes against humanity and launder that, and then they were litigated for it because they did not agree to do something to do with children, and then they had to come out as whistleblower. And basically, it's a glitch in the matrix of desensitization because since childhood they were raped, and then when they're going through the desensitization, probably to do stuff to children, they get memories. Somebody probably managed to hack the system. They got memories or flashbacks from their own childhood, and that prevented them from being able to continue with that. And by the way, hacking those desensitization rituals is probably going to be a war tactic of people that um, that want to actually do something about the matrix, so to speak. So um, mm, 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 mm. Now, blood donations, blood letting. That's going to go boom. Like people are going to. First of all, we're probably going to have like a big DNA leak And because it's lineages, the origins of many lineages and blood lineages is going to be exposed, but also the rituals around blood donations or taking blood. Um, and it's also wartime, so when it comes when the Jews, for example, trafficked Jews, they did bloodletting rituals, and organ traded the Jews that they trafficked to the Nazis. Um, so probably that's how they created Eva Braun, um, because Hitler did not suddenly fall in love with a Jew over nothing, um, and not that he was. I mean, he doesn't look Irish. But then Germans did not look, they were not blue eyed and so on and so forth. By the way, years after, Annika Lucas says that they were trying to create this superhuman with blue eyes, and she had brown eyes, so she wasn't like the ideal. Yeah. Um, Physiognomy is going to be big with Aries. Um, the ideal face is something that people are going to look for, but also Saturn Neptune is the breaking of the myth of the ideal face. Um, yeah, I don't know whatever that means. Okay, whatever that means. Or the holistic reason why the bone structure, the facial bone structure, or the teeth, because nothing is more bones in the head area than the skull and the teeth. Um, for example, I had a eureka regarding my wisdom tooth, which is connected to the heart, where I have Saturn opposing Sun. And that particular wisdom tooth is the one that has the problem. The problem is to do with mold, and Pluto is ruled by Saturn. And this is at about, yeah, it's about the aftermath of my Pluto square. But I have the eureka of why is that delaying so much? And there was the torture room, the dentistry torture room by Epstein Island. So that was delaying, and they were trying to hack. I went. There was one dentist that they hacked their nervous system, and the people look very funny when it happens to them. Um, then there was another doctor, and she had difficulty receiving my payment because I didn't have like the way that I was paying insurance was not suffice. Like nobody told me that. Basically, I was paying insurance for nothing. So the way, and it was a simple thing. There's something very weird around that, and yeah, basically they owe me money, of course. But this is, but more than that, the Epstein thing. How many dentists had to rape children and participate in those rituals to have a certification? Um, and how that Saturn Neptune is the connection to the heart that was um, impaired, or the ability to feel, or vulnerability that's not honored, created that, basically that compost, that mold that was trying to defend from the, and there was stagnation in matters of the heart because of the vulnerability that was not honored, for very very long time, because Saturn takes time and Pluto is something moldy. um, And so to tend to the teeth, and by the way, teeth are very important with astrology because Saturn rules time. And so to tend to the teeth in a holistic way is to tend to the Epstein rings that were torturing people to have medical certification. I hope they're not going to make an astrological certification because it would mean the same. Um, that's what Chris Brennan referred to, where when there are ritual abuses and Peter rings and secret societies that do those things, then people get into nihilism regarding entire scientific endeavors. I mean, if you practically cannot trust, if going to the dentist or the astrologer or to the psychologist is a Russian roulette, then in praxis the entire field is nullified. And it affects also the sciences, which of course I talked about when I wrote Sugar-Free Lemonade. Yeah, attempt to psychically attack me. It's something to do with blood, taking blood, but it's like the blood donation or bloodletting ritual. Or somebody had to go through changing their blood. Down, we call it in Hebrew. Somebody either is going through that. This is blood transfusion. Maybe somebody is going through blood transfusion. Oh, the plasma in the blood. I was talking about that. The plasma. Um, okay, the funny thing that the people that pride themselves by their bloodline are using plasma medicine, which is basically from different, yeah, taken from people that are in helpless situations and done illegally. Usually, those people are addicted to drugs or alcohol, and then they say that they purify the blood, which is really funny. Like, those are treason codes. Why would they trust what they do? Um, it's just something that I see with blood. The Maniuk was the lawyer of Eichmann. Why does it show up now? Oh, we probably are going to have, but it's not a Libra position. The Eichmann trial was with Neptune still in Libra, I think. Or already in Scorpio, I don't know. It was a mythical trial. Um, there can be mythical trial or witch trials um, as well, but it's also going to be warlock trials. Um, Saturn Neptune in Aries is also um, people are going to address the topic of spiritual rape, and also for the people that previously suffered from that, there can be some sort of repercussions for those that did spiritual rape. Again, to do with the secret societies and their ritual, like somebody had to get desensitized. Um, and but I think it's going to be more with boys towards boys or men that rape spiritually men because it's given brotherhoods. It's not a particularly Me Too type of thing, although Me Too had Aries and Uranus conjoining in Aries. So It was just anti-rape issues. Um, so any both spiritual rape and rape um, at war or as war, those are topics that would have kind of like a repercussion. Um, I mean, they lead to holocausts and genocides and democides and mass graves and entire world dying. So, I mean, that's repercussion. Like, I don't. Okay, I just try to see what are the possibilities here with the chart. Um, like I said, the social credit score is already going to have repercussions, and I named the repercussions. And blood banks can go boom. Okay, blood and banking. Okay, the plasma medicine can go boom. Filmmaking, war films, something there can go boom. Uranus still in Taurus. Conjoining better per se, dead bodies upon dead bodies upon dead bodies upon dead bodies of rapists, spiritual rapists, and or not spiritual rapists, or wealth, sensuality, sovereignty. Nothing has to happen. Nobody actually has to die. It's the biggest war of all, and actually nobody has to die. That's why. So, um, the role of technology, particularly the occult of creation of slaves. Okay, because Saturn, Aries, trying to enslave or trying to limit the sovereignty, if it goes to the frequency of a ritual to try to create slaves, um, some gonna go boom around the ritual and around those egregores. Um, New types of explosions, wave. Oh, we may have gas and radiation that is explosive. There is the Azazel, I call it the Azazel gas, Azuvizite or something like that. And this thing can it just explodes for no reason. So, oh, another thing I wanted to talk about, big shout out here, still watching Esoterica. Really love, now whether we agree or not, this guy gets into like the talking about the Baal and the Moloch and those esoteric concepts. So, whether we agree or not, he did his best to learn the topic from like a scholarly point of view. You know what I think about academia, but at the same time, this is interesting point of view that we can add to the kaleidoscope of colliding views. No, it's not in my. This is not my video. This is Ali Mac Forever, and she talks about the mining. Bless you. The mining of. She mentioned a particular mineral. I think it's in Netherlands. And here is the thing. She talked about a particular type of mining that leaves a red soil. And this is kind of like the worst mining because it basically sculpts the soil. Now, when there were ritual abuses done in a soil, what did you think would happen? Red, Mars, minerals, Mars and Saturn, implications of Saturn ritual, Mars rape, Aries identity, Neptune deed, dissociative identity, not disorder. It was the intentional outcome of abuse. The people that speak up are psychiatrically tagged and not deprogrammed, drugged, drugs, Neptune. They wouldn't trust the drug trafficker to provide drugs for the Peter rings, where they use it to rape the children and then film it, if they didn't trust that drug trafficker. To trust him, he needs to be filmed with a child. Okay, the myth of the mafia not harming women, when the mafia traffics women and drug trafficking is happening sometimes through the genitals of children. So we have the rare earth minerals, or soil becoming, the world sculpt is basically Aries. Okay, the barren land, and this is because of the mining of the minerals that was done by the people that were ritually abused, and they were extorted to make these decisions. So all the people that would come up with such a policy went through that, and then it could be even the land where they got abused. And that is, it's almost like Jesus cursing the fig tree. They cannot grow life on the soil of such rituals. Demonic powers, that's what they yield. That's it's not the milk and honey land. By the way, I saw there are discussions about milk. There are also the farmers in Israel that spilled milk and so on. Those in a lot of the cattle growing moshavs and kibbutz, which is a form of settling, they were electrocuting the children. I know a woman who was a trafficking survivor, and she told the story of when they did that to the children in those places where they were growing the cows and the cattle. And of course, it is wealth consolidation, so they have the right to have a farm on that land, and then they sell, they both export and import, um, and children and milk. So there was a discussion about raw milk, calling for regulation. Falcon, people used to grow milk. If they would drink milk, it would be from the animals that were already growing. And it also would be that, let's say, a calf is eating other food, then the mother could be left with the breasts. So, okay, not the industrialized form in which it happens today that causes inflammation, even in saturated milk. So people should be able to have land and a house, and at the max buy milk from the local producer. that they don't have that is ice. After the blue pill COVID times, that was the infrastructure for ice. Regulation would be by the same people that rape children to get the certification and authority to sit at a regulatory convention. Even the person that prevented psychologists from legally raping their patients took the cold feet when he had an actual case to tend to. And that was the guy that everybody around was saying, yeah, he's probably talking about that topic because he has some weird, they tried to psychologically and psychiatrically tag him when he was talking about that topic to try to prevent that. And so it's kind of like even the salt of the earth got cold feet. And then even in his book, he was trying to write about the good things that the patient received to sort of now here is the thing. In trauma bonds, they use the good things to bait on, and if the person agrees to accept them, if they agree to accept the good, they begin to naturally set boundaries to the bad, because love has to be actually loving. So you know if the people that are at the highest moral compass in the field are in such a megalithic gap, and even during the 80s, women were called battered women, okay, which is, okay, if they're in such a megalithic gap, then imagine the people that got completely desensitized. And by the way, this did not skip holistic health practitioners. And you can see those that have a house did rituals on their colleagues, on the people that said no to trafficking, no to rape, and they did rituals on their words. Why? Because they come from a lineage, or they come from a family, and who know how the family got their homes. I'm not talking about the real estate tycoons. But if it's a big family of I don't know how many people, they wouldn't defend a single woman that that wants to live in her own house and have a career, particularly not if she's secular. Because she has to shut up about the rituals of the family that was probably dissociated from taking part in. That's why sisters would suddenly wear Disney clothes. And it goes to the organic clothes, to the astrological delineations, to the, how do they call it, human design, to the oils, to the naturopathy, reflexology. Those places I try to do my nails, okay? Everything ultra. Even childbirth, ultra care. Everything MK Ultra South.